Okay, my friends, this should be very interesting. Can humans have two hearts? Now, this is from the Institute of Human Anatomy. They've got almost 5 million subscribers, and he says, again, these are silly, but yet they are interesting questions. Well, what does a heart specifically do? We say it pumps blood. Well, what else does it do? Well, let's see what the interaction of the heart is regarding blood pressure, blood vessels, capillaries, veins, arteries. Let's take a little deeper look at what the heart actually does. Okay, so how deep can we get? Well, we can go as deep can be. You see there's black here, and there's red here. Why is this? If this was the blood vessels, and this was an artery bringing raw red blood and blood cells down, and then they flow off into what they call blood vessels, which bring them down, way down to the very end where they have the little tips. They're called capillaries. All right, you see that? That's capillaries at the end. So we have your arteries, we have your blood vessels, which are still in red, and at the very tips, they turn into black. Because that's from blood pressure, really. And then the vein, which is that, draws that blood back up to the heart. So the heart squeezes it down and pulls it at the same time as the muscles are doing this. It's one big long muscle. And it wraps around, and it's a group. One goes this way, and when it opens back up, it sucks back in, because they have valves. So you only go this way, and when I open back up, you can only come back this way. So it pushes the artery side out and pulls the vein side back in. And there's where it happens, right here at the vein. Okay, so once again, we're back to the vein, artery, the red blood cells flowing through the blood vessels to the capillaries, through the capillaries via blood pressure. It's pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. And that's at the very tips. They just barely can dribble out of there. You see how it's gone from huge to tiny. Now, let's look at this very, very closely. Now, you're going to notice that none of these little brown spots exist other than in the red arms, which are the blood vessels, because that's where they're carrying those red blood cells. Now, this is going to be hard for you to accept or believe, but this is not within the body of a creature here that is alive now or was alive until just recently. This is the fish that was attacked in the desert. And there he is right there. All right, this is Google Earth. That's a fish. These are his scales. That's the fin that comes off the top. And it comes around, and this is his tail. That's the fish. Now, I believe this is his eye right here. This is a black spot. I cannot totally account for it. I do believe this is what they referred to as Atlantis. I know this is absolutely insane, but that fish was attacked by a giant dragon, which is right up there at the top. And this is all written about in the ancient texts. And this is where we were just looking at. Is right here. That's where all of the blood and the surface tissue was eaten away. And we can see all the blood vessels and all of the arteries and all of the veins. All right? And that's the guy's back. That's the fish's back. Right there is the fin. And all of this stuff came down and landed here, and that's as far as it got. All right, this tissue was not destroyed. You can still see it's the same tissue. Well, maybe it got a little destroyed. It doesn't look all that good. I mean, you can see right through it, so apparently it did. Now, down here, you can't really see through it. You can just see sort of an opaque look. Underneath is where that tissue is. But you can't really see it because the above tissue was not degraded like it was above. You see up here, it's completely eaten through. So this was right from the dragon's beards, really. Let me come back out of here so you can see the whole thing. I know this is crazy. I'm sorry. I've been following this for many years, and I know this stuff inside and out now. And all the ancient texts talk about this, and there's maps that show this exact event. Coming from his beard, right under here. These are the beards. All of this stuff flowed down, and it is just the most obnoxious, nastiest looking stuff. That came and flowed down on that fish's back. And that's what caused us to be able to see the inside of his body. Right there. Now, this is the dragon's head right here. Take your time. That's his nose. They have a bump like that. It comes back and all this flary, flashy stuff around his head. This is his red, flared eye. All right. This is this kind of stuff that you see on the parade dragons. You see that? It runs all the way down here. Now, this is his throat. All of this is runoff from a dead, decaying body, all the fluids. From here back is his body. All right, so don't get confused. This has nothing to do with his body. This is runoff of the bodily fluids. You see the black and the red? And I'll show you his throat was cut. Can you imagine something being able to cut a throat of a dragon like that? You know how big that dragon is? It goes all the way from there across North Africa, all the way out to here. His tail is all fluty out here. This is also dragon scales back here. And it's also running off. You see it? That's all a runoff of a dead, decaying dragon. It's not just running off there for nothing. And these scales are not here for no reason either. Wait do you see what these scales look like? It'll take a second to home in on them. But they're plated like unbelievable different types of minerals and metals, it looks like. Look, you see that? You think that's an accident? No. Hell no. That's a construction. That's some kind of DNA code that says, all right, make these things tough so that nothing can get to you. That is some serious, serious armored plating. And it runs the whole body. However, as the ancient texts say, Zeus overcame Typhon. This was Typhon. And exactly what it talks about, he cut his throat. So remember back here, this is all runoff. And what's this doing down here? There's a big gash in his throat right here. This is all runoff. I mean, this is all his throat, runs all the way down until you hit here, and it was cut. You see this? Right there. What's all that green doing in the desert? Blood creates green things. Those spots I was showing you on the fish, that's where plants are growing because they like to grow in the green blood. That's what it is. I was showing you plants. Those weren't blood cells, but at one time they were blood cells. Let's go back and look at them. Let's go back on top of our fish. So all this stuff got spit from the dragon right here. Now let's go back and look at our blood cells, because they are not blood cells. Well, they are, but they're now trees. Let's let it home in on there. You see, they're shrubbery. They want to grow in that red blood. Green things love red blood. So all of this is from red blood, and it's only from blood. You see, they only grow here, right there. Only little tiny things, just little, only where the red blood was. They love it, absolutely love it. All my mud fossils, they just, the red blood is just unbelievable for growing things. But the black, absolutely nothing. Nothing, nada. Completely nothing except for the red. Now the red is saturated with iron. I guess it's the iron that they're going after. I'm not actually sure exactly what it is in the red blood that they want. But there is some chemistry there that is just so attractive to green things that in the middle of the desert they'll find them, they're very, very happy growing on these, at one time red blood cells, it looks to me. Now, if you can come up with a different explanation, I would certainly love to hear it. But we can see that's the fish's back. Ate right into his vital flesh, right here. And that's the dragon up here. And here's his throat, runs all the way down. And we can see his cut throat right here. And it said in the ancient text, Zeus cut his throat with his great and mighty sword. And you see the green going here? That's about as green as you can possibly get in the middle of the desert, and then running into the greenest green puddle I've ever seen. So it's still leaking blood out of there, or at least the minerals that are in blood. This is what happens when blood dries up. The FeO2, the vein side, is black. Like we just saw, it is black. The red side is red. And the red side grows all the things that want to grow in red blood. There it is. And the black, absolutely nothing. It's just blackness. You see? And this was streams of blood flowing out of here, streaming, and it dries up. It dries up as it collects. You see that? That's the black blood. And it just sort of piles up on itself, like over here. You see that? That's a pretty good pile of black blood. But that's all it is black blood. Up here is the scales. You see here? These are the scales of his throat. This is the outside edge of his throat right here. And these scales protected his throat, which is going all the way down, and that's where we saw the cut. Now, did anybody else know about this cut throat? Well, absolutely they did. It's all written about in Apollodorus 1.1.6, I think, or I have to look that up. But it's Apollodorus. If you read Apollodorus, and it's not real long, he wrote, I think it was 180 BC or something like that. It was a BC time. And he wrote about this happening, about how Earth gave birth to the Titans. All of that stuff now appears to have some validity. At least it should be looked into and stopped being laughed at and dismissed without even looking at it. And I believe this right here is Atlantis. All right, those are the rings. And I'm going to tell you what, if you look at this very carefully, this was literally an eyeball. You see this area around here? Boom, 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 boom. Then there's going to be all strings running into the center. Exactly what you see in an eyeball right here. All of these little strings run in to focus the eyeball. You see them over here? Go to an ophthalmologist. Oh no, I could show you. Well, I guess I will have to show you. Now that I say I can, I will. This is identical to what is in an eyeball. These are the filaments that pull and tug at the focusing points around your eyeball. That, my friends, is an eyeball. Of what it was, I have no idea. But I've also found, I can't remember where it was, I think it was over here somewhere, there's I believe it's this right here, feeds the optic nerve, I believe is what I came up with. This goes back quite, I think it's right here. That feeds the optic nerve area. Anyway, it's all biology, and back here is the straits. Plato said it was right outside the straits, and it was extremely wealthy because it controlled the straits. Well, that, my friend, is a straits. And at one time, it appears to me that was the only way into the Sahara Ocean, which is now the Sahara Desert, because it breached and drained off out and washed Atlantis away in one day. Plato said it took 24 hours to drain the Sahara, which was an ocean. This was all ocean at one time. And it created the Cape Verde Islands out here. And this, what they call an alluvial plain, which is a big flat spot out here where all this stuff drained out. And Plato said they will never speak of mud again. There was so much mud ran out. And if you just look at it, you can't hardly miss it. Now, that's the other thing. It looks to me like this all happened at the same time. This event, the fish is covered by something here. I'm not sure exactly what that is. It could just be runoff, or it could be part of the typhon's body. But it looks to me like this might all happen at the exact same time. And this did not happen that long ago. These things are on top of the surface of the earth. And they create the surface of the earth. They're not way down underneath miles of debris. All right, this is going to be kind of stunning, but I'm just showing you what's been recorded in history. This is called the Atlas Catalan Abraham Cresque map from 1375. And it depicts everything that they knew about whatever had been explored. The New World is not on here, the Americas. Now, what does it show? It shows who went where and all what they lived and how they lived, and had all kinds of interpretations. And then you run into this thing here. And you say, what is that? Well, where is it, first of all? It's all the way across North Africa. And this is Spain. This is right here, the Gibraltar, Straits of Gibraltar. Well, this is that dragon I showed you, all the way across North Africa. And here's his tail where it flares way out at the very end, which it does. And here's his neck cut, which it is. And it's a dragon. And it's on this map. Now, I said that Atlantis was just below. Well, these guys look like they're coming in here. At one time they were. And this was, somebody was living here being real happy right underneath the dragon. So I say that was Atlantis. It all stacks up to me.